All right. Thank you, Maria. Hello. Welcome, everybody, to another session of VC the Venture Capital TV from La Token. Today's topic is on investments, VC investments into food tech space. And myself, Sunny Mohanty, I'm the Regional Director of La Token based here in Singapore. We have an amazing panel and a surprise today because I have got a colleague as well who joined me today to moderate the session. So we're going to hear more about from the speakers today first, then go so on and so forth. So first speaker, speakers, hi, hello, everyone. Nice to have you on board here on VCTV again. We have some regular speakers, Natasha and Daisy, and new speakers. So please start by introducing yourself, which company you represent, and then we would go to the questions after that. Sushma, would you like to start first because you're just joining us for the first time?
Sure. Thanks, Sonny, and thanks so much for inviting me here. It's really a pleasure to be part of this panel. I'm quite excited to share my insights as well and learn a lot from all of you guys. So very quickly, I'm Sushma. I'm a partner at Avishkar Capital. It's an India-focused fund. We invest in early stage and early growth stage investments. Our focus is largely in food tech, agri-tech, and fintech. And so we've recently also just concluded an investment in the food tech space. So I'm happy to share my insights there. And yeah.
Great. Thank you, Sushma, for that short introduction. Next, we have Natasha Berry. Hi, Natasha. Please introduce yourself for those who don't know, especially Sushma is new as well. And, other viewers who are new would like to know more about you. And the painting.
Hi, Sonic.
Hey, hi. Can you hear us, Natasha?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah.
Okay.
We can hear you now, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's a pleasure to be a regular at VCTV and share insights. So yes, I am the co-founder and partner of Venture Gurukul Capability Fund. It's a SEBI-registered Cat1 fund focused on early stage investments at pre-Series A and Series A rounds. It's a co-investment fund, and what we bring to the table with our co-investors is the insights which our venture partners have in terms of operational excellence. So we focus extensively on scaling operations, and that's why we come in at a stage where we know a startup has achieved a product market fit, and now they're raising the money to basically scale. And that's where our venture partners, with their operating experience, add huge amount of insights. And it's a post-COVID fund. So we're looking at opportunistic opportunities in this new normal post-COVID economy. And interestingly, behind me, I have a painting which is focused on the current pandemic. So the theme of this is, as I'm telling you earlier, is about how everyone's together in this post-pandemic world. So you see everyone, all the countries is wearing their particular flag as masks. And then you have the saviors during the pandemic, which is your doctors and nurses who are shooting arrows at COVID, So this is our post-COVID theme art investment. So so it's exciting to be here.
Oh wow, I love the painting, to be honest. When I saw that, it just caught my attention. And yes, we are all in this together.
Together, yes.
Yes, welcome again, Natasha. Great to have you again on the panel. So Daisy, welcome back to VCTV. Please help introduce yourself for those who don't know you. And yes, we'll go from there.
So thank you for inviting. I'm the Business Development Director of Angel Hub. So Angel Hub, we are a VC firm based in Hong Kong, and we source potential technology companies from all over the world. And so we put our own money into the companies, and we think they have potential to grow. And also, we are Hong Kong's first regulated startup investment platform. So we also invite our investors to co-invest with us into into the venture startups that we choose. So basically, we want to democratize startup investment and bring new investment channel to our investors. So we're industry agnostic, but recently we are looking into the really hot topic, that means food tech, and we are looking into a really interesting cell-based, cell-cultivated meat company, which is based in Hong Kong. And I would like to introduce more about these startups to all of you guys later. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Awesome, interesting. I wasn't aware about cell-based, products, but yes, Daisy is going to enlighten us with her insights about this startup that they are looking to explore to invest into. So I have a surprise today. I have a co-moderator from La Token who's joined us from Spain, Alberto Mora. Alberto, please help introduce yourself to the audience and other speakers. Thank you. Over to you, Alberto.
Thank you, Sonny. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Oh, thank you, everybody. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can.
Sorry. I thought I was silent. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm looking forward to learning what you have to share about the food tech industry and its different verticals. So I am Alberto Mera. As Sonny said, I am product manager at VCTV. And yeah, let's get this started. I'll give it back to you, Sonny. Please, let's begin with the questions.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Alberto. Hope everything is okay in Spain in terms of COVID.
Yeah, well, as okay as it could be. Thank you.
All right, great. Okay, now we're all set for the questions because it's a very interesting topic, something very new for me and for our speakers and audience as well. Food tech, as Sushma rightly said, when we were offline, we were discussing food tech is a very broad topic. Food tech is a very broad topic, and there are several verticals underneath. Would you like to start by introducing what food tech is, the bigger connotation, and the different verticals underneath, and then we'll start the questions. Sushma, over to you.
Sure, thanks, Ani. So broadly, the way we look at food tech, it's split into three main categories. The first category being the food delivery and food services. The second category is food sciences, and the third category is agri-tech. At least in India, what we are seeing is most of the investments that have happened in the last few years have all been focused on the food delivery and food services part. But that was for multiple different reasons. But what we are seeing is an emerging trend of investments flowing into the agri-tech and a little bit into the food sciences. Food sciences, because it's largely knowledge-driven and IP-driven, is still very nascent in a country like ours, but it holds a lot of promise. So the food tech industry itself, food tech overall has attracted close to $4 billion of investments in the last few years, of which agri-tech itself has attracted close to 2 billion. So almost half the share has gone to agri-tech as well. And so, that's a big opportunity because for all of you who know, agriculture is close to 16% of the GDP contributor as a sector. And with all the new reforms that have been announced recently in our country, a lot of private investor participation is expected, and we expect a lot of private mainstream money to start flowing into this sector to make it far more vibrant. We do expect a lot of unicorns to emerge from this sector, from our country at least.
So is it all happening during the pandemic, during the recent 3-4 months? Like, you made any recent investments that you can share?
Sure. So the pandemic absolutely has, showcased some of these sectors, which are mostly in the essential services space. So essential services have shown to be the most resilient of businesses in our country. And for everyone who knows, India is quite badly hit by the COVID with multiple lockdowns. But essential services, of course, is essential services. And everyone needs to eat. And especially in the pandemic, people realize that, they need to eat more. And so that's one area that has really picked up steam in the last few months. And just as the lockdown was getting announced, we were lucky to close one investment in a very interesting food grain bank model called Argos, where they provide small grain banks where the grain that the farmer at his farm gate stores is used as a currency rather than just a bag of grain, right? So it's very fungible currency. It empowers farmers in a significant way. And for people who are not aware, India has a lot of small and marginal farmers. They contribute to almost 86 to 87% of the farmers in our country. So they are a significant lot in terms of their number, and providing this kind of a service for them at their doorstep empowers them in a big way. And that's where a lot of wealth will be unlocked in the next few years. So that's an investment that we are extremely excited about. And there's a lot of tech play in that with the platform that they have built. So it's highly scalable. And so that is something that we are quite excited and looking out to.
Sushma, I know that you've been talking, but I'm really intrigued by this grain that you said they also like a currency. What is that? I mean, I'm not aware, so sorry, because other panelists or speakers might be, but maybe some of us don't know. So how does this work? Can you just a little bit explain before I go to other speakers?
Sure. So the problem that we face in a country like ours is that the farmers end up being at the mercy of a lot of middlemen, because we have a very fragmented value chain in the agri supply chain. And so what they end up doing is the minute they harvest, they just sell it to the first person who walks into their farm gate, right? And because of which they end up getting a very low price, or the price discovery is very poor. And one of the big focus areas in a country like ours is how to increase the farm income, or the income to a farmer. And one such, method to do that is to improve his warehousing or storing capacity. And if you provided that to him, he is at a better position to negotiate a better price with the buyers eventually, right? And unfortunately, he didn't have the infrastructure to do this. So what this grain bank particularly does is it doesn't distinguish the grain or the farmer has stored as his grain versus his neighbor's grain lot. It is used as a fungible currency. So it is used like if I put in 1 kg of grain, it'll be valued at the same price as your 1 kg of grain. So it's and hence it unlocks a lot more value for all the farmers as a community.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting space, grain bank. I'd like to know more from you offline after this call, but excellent. Thank you for the start. So next we have Natasha. Natasha, we would like to hear like which topic, which vertical are you comfortable talking about in terms of recent investments that you've done?
I think the pandemic has been a shift shaper for everyone, right? It's completely altered the way we have been operating and made us really reflect back. I think to start with, what are we eating? Second, how healthy it is what we're eating, So increasingly, and consumers are increasingly getting focused on A, what are we eating? How nutritious it is? And B, how do I build my immunity? So these sort of trends have emerged. And I think in places like US, where the supply chains are so efficient, like we were discussing in one of our previous webinars, there are 4 major players and their meat supply chain is so efficient, where from the production to the ultimate meat packaging and processing, and these production lines are so cramped up, they have become a COVID hotspot. Right. So, and people are shunning away meat altogether in the US. Now, in a country like US, where it's the diet is not as rich as Indian diet, and in India, apart from animal-based proteins, we have alternatives to a lot of plant-based proteins, may it be soy, may it be paneer. There's so much, dal, it's a huge amount of dosage of nutrition. So in places over there, there's been a trend towards what we call as plant-based and cell-based meat. And I think it's yet to be proven, like Impossible Foods, if you ever try their burgers, it'll really not fit well with someone who is a regular meat eater. So it doesn't really fit the palate yet. And cell-based meat is yet to be proven. So I think in countries like this, where a lot of investment already has been made, a product still has yet to be proven. There's still opportunity around it. But I think in India, that sort of opportunity would be limited because, like I said, there's so much alternatives for protein. We just don't need to depend on red meat per se to fulfill our nutritional requirements. So in a place like India, I think if you look at the dining experience, which previously was limited to restaurants and other places, especially in the metros, and it's completely wiped out because of this pandemic. There's a huge void amongst the consumers because everyone is learning to live with the pandemic, right? So there's a huge void in terms of at-home experiences. So I would say chef on wheels. So chef who come to your house, like offer, let's say, a 5-star hotel like Bukhara, and give you the entire fine dining experience at your doorstep. And there are premium customers who are willing to do that. So those are some interesting opportunities which we're actively exploring and very actively looking from an investment standpoint. We are already in talks in terms of final negotiation with one such company. So that's one particular interesting trend. I think the other trend, there are a lot of companies which are focused on plant-based and cell-based opportunities. But like I said, we look at something which has got like a product market fit already. So those companies still have to sort of get their product market iteration done yet. But still, I think those are interesting space. There's an alternative for eggs, and I know so many people who are allergic towards eggs and vegetarians. So it's a good opportunity from that product point. But yes, it's still yet to be proven. And the second is going to be in terms of nutrition. So what you're eating essentially, like one very interesting company, I quite like this in the US, it's called Olipop, right? So they give you probiotic, not milk, soda. So if you can mix nutrition with a healthy snack, and we have invested in one such company, which is in the healthy snack domain, which is transforming your regular snacks, traditional Indian snacks, into modern avatars. So if you can mix, your nutrition with great taste, I think that's an interesting trend as well, especially in a country like India. But it has to fit. The taste palette has to be closer to Indian market. I'm not saying go and make trail mixes or something and offer it to a consumer. No one's purposely going to try and be a regular consumer of eating trail mixes because it's healthy. So snack has to be suited more towards the Indian palate. And, you have to add a dose of nutrition to it, work something around sabudana, I think makhana is already there. A lot of people are doing it, but still a lot of opportunity. Chabanprash bars. So, there's a lot of opportunity from that perspective. So these are 2-3 trends which we are seeing, and interesting times.
Yeah, wow. And now I've started mouth watering because I love to snack, and plus snacking is something I'll be looking for.
Yeah, like binge eating, like you do binge tele watching, so binge eating along with it. That's why it's become so important now. Everyone's just eating quite a bit and working out less.
Yes. Thank you. You've just snatched those words from me.
Yeah, sure.
So talking about cell-based protein food, let's come to Daisy, who is from Hong Kong. We touched upon India, where we have a lot of substitute for protein, and obviously, Indians as a whole, people are vegetarian, I would say, if I'm right to say vegetarian. So there are a lot of vegetarian supplement for protein-based products. But outside of India, let's talk about Hong Kong. Daisy, please help talk about the recent investments that you've done in this exciting space that we were just mentioning before we went online.
Hello. Recently in Hong Kong, for I think in the recent 2 to 3 years, we really got a lot of plant-based meats. So in Hong Kong, you can eat Beyond Meats. You can have the Beyond Sausage. You can have the Impossible Burger in many restaurants, and we also have one local plant-based pork called Omnipork, which is doing very successfully. You can buy it everywhere in the supermarket. So it is really a really hot topic. I mean, man-made meat is really a hot topic in Hong Kong. And I think more and more people actually they're accepting it because I've tasted those dumplings, the traditional Chinese dumpling made by plant-based meat. And I really think that a meat lover, but I really think I cannot distinguish it between it's a real meat and a plant-based meat. So I think we are looking, it's a really hot topic, and we are really looking into it. Recently, the Hong Kong television, TVB, the biggest Hong Kong television station in Hong Kong, they have an interview with a really interesting company that aroused our attention. So I don't know if you guys know fish more. So it really looks like this kind of things. So as you can see, so yeah, these kind of things. Yeah, fish more. We call it fish more. So basically, these things that we Chinese women, we are willing to pay a lot of money for fish more. So it may be like more than 300 US dollar for that small portion of fish more. Why do we need to put money on it? Because we believe that it's got the collagen that we can make us young and beautiful, and we have got really nutrition. If I'm sick, if I so it's really good for aging. So it is the intake, I would say, it's the intake medicine for us to keep us healthy, to keep us beautiful. So this is the thing we really put a lot of money on it. So why it catch my attention is that me and my mom and many of my aunties, we are really paying a lot of money on fish more. But this company, the company got interviewed, they have already produced cell-based fish more from fish. So let me explain a little bit about cell-based. So plant-based, what they're doing is that different from plant-based, they put all the plants together to make it more taste and make it more like meat. But the nutrition, it provides alternative meats, it provides alternative proteins to replace meat. But for this kind of fish more, actually what we are eating is not the nutrition, it's not the taste of it, but you believe that the nutrition has some medical effects on us, on our skin. So what they're doing is that they extract a little stem cell from the fish, and then put it into a cell growth medium. So to put it into some liquid for it to grow, give it some nutrition, and they put it in a lab. So after like 6 weeks time, they will have the meats, they will have the cell grow meats, the cell grow fish more to reproduce. So it is produced in a very clean way. I do not need to kill the fish. I need to kill the first fish to take a little bit of the stem cell, but later on that stem cell, small stem cell, can make a lot of the lab grown meat. So it's kind of a produced meat in a sustainable way. And the taste and the nutrition is 100% as the real conventional meats. And also it's actually cleaner and to have better health, because can take away all the pollutions, possible pollutions, or maybe the heavy metals, or maybe the antibiotics in the conventional food. So basically it is a cleaner way to produce the meat, the fish, but with a lower cost. So now the cost is actually, it's very expensive to buy it. So for this kind of lab grow fish more, it is much cheaper and it is much cleaner, and the production cycle is faster. And as I know that for many of the cell-based, cell-cultivated meat companies for all over the world, very seldom they have the prototype already. So this is one of the.
I'm actually speaking at this webinar.
Okay, carry on. Sorry, Daisy.
Okay, so not many of them, they have already produced a prototype. So they really catch our attention that they already have the prototype ready with the low production cost, but give me the same nutrition as the conventional fish more, and in a cleaner way. I don't need to kill a lot of fish. So I think it is quite interesting company to look at. And I read some articles actually. In the long run, the cell cultivated meat may be the production cost will be lower than the real meat. So it's actually an alternative way for those meat lover, for Chinese who love to eat the meat for their nutrition. Really good way to actually to replace the conventional meat.
Yeah, I think, Daisy, I have seen this fish that you showed me in Singapore.
Really?
I think I've seen it, and somebody told me it is very expensive, because you rightly said it's very expensive. So coming to the cost, I mean, so you basically are looking to invest into a startup, or you've already invested in this company?
They catch our attention. We are actually looking into it.
Right. So my question is, the cost factor, is it very expensive right now? Is it because the demand is not there, or the supply chain process, starting from catching the fish, getting the stem out to the lab, to the packaging, to the consumer? Is it like a very tedious, expensive process? Or why would that why would that cost account towards the end product?
So there are a very good question. Thank you so much for your question. So there are actually two reasons why we cannot see cell cultivated meats in the market now. The first reason is that many of the cell cultivated meats, they are not GMO food. So they're not actually GM food, but still they need FDA approval of this kind of cell-based meat. So it's still like a biotech thing, So it's not plant-based. It's a biotech thing. So we need to pass the law in order to commercialize it. So this is the main reason why, even though many of the companies, they may have a prototype, but it cannot be launched to market. But the second reason is that so far, the production cost is still very high compared to plant-based. One of the reasons is that, as I've mentioned, the stem cell, they're extracted from the meat, and then they put in a cell culture medium. So that cell culture medium provides nutrition for the cell to grow, but that culture medium is very expensive. It's super expensive now. So the production cost, mainly of the production cost goes into that cell medium, the nutritions for the cell to grow. But as I can remember, in 2013, we've got the first lab grow burger in Europe, in Netherlands. So can you guess the price of it? It's actually $330,000 US dollar for that production. $330,000 US dollar. For that burger. Yes, it's very expensive in 2013, but now actually the cost is already very low, and we believe that in the next few years time, when the product can be launched in the market, it can be as low as $5 US per burger, or maybe even lower. So basically, a lot of scientists are doing a lot of things on that cell grow medium to increase the cell productivity, to reduce the use of cell grow medium in order to actually shorten the production time and greatly lower the cost. And it is something that we see can be achieved quite possibly in the next few years' time. So that is the reason why we believe that when it be launched to the market, the price will be very reasonable to the consumers.
Awesome, fantastic, great insights, Daisy. Absolutely loving this panel today. So I have to pass the floor to my co-moderator of the day, Alberto, to take some questions from the speaker today. Alberto, floor is all yours. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Sunny. So you've been speaking of different verticals in the food tech industry. I would be curious to know, since you've been following this market for a while, what are some successful pivots that you have seen working in this field? Some companies that may have gone in one direction, changed, and finally succeed. Could you speak of maybe some of those that maybe you've been following over these years? Maybe Sushma, since you started talking about agricultural tech, you could take it from here.
Sure. Thanks, Alberto. Happy to take that. There have been some very interesting companies. Some have also broken into the unicorn club I was mentioning. So some of the names, to share are the big names like Swiggy, which is a delivery app, food delivery app, which is one of the unicorns. And they've made food very accessible to all of us. And even during a lockdown that we were facing, Swiggy probably did very good business, and they also helped a lot of small restaurants, keep afloat just by ensuring that we all got food and good, tasty food on time, right? So that's one. A couple of very interesting farm to fork kind of players also have been doing well. So we do have our eyes on them. Some of them are in our portfolio as well. So there's this whole marketplace for supply of farm implements and farm inputs called AgroStar, which provides anything that a farmer requires at their doorstep, which before this was not possible. So it's almost like an Amazon for farm implements. So that's something that's very exciting as a space. Another very interesting area that is coming up is agri-technology in the space of hydroponics. India has been largely rain-based agriculture. And we all know that climate change is a big problem that we will be facing, and it'll only get worse in the years to come. And so we need to very quickly figure out innovations that can mitigate that kind of a risk. And hydroponics is, again, an emerging opportunity in that space. So there are some very interesting startups that are working there. A lot of technology has been done in Israel. Israel are probably the pioneers in hydroponic technology, mainly because the shortage of water that they face there. But we are also looking at adopting them in a country like ours. Then these innovations in grain banks, warehousing, in farm credit is another big area. Data, IoT, and traceability of farm products, especially in food and fruits, is again picking up because of all the exports that are happening. People are now very conscious of where the food is getting sourced from. So there's traceability has become a very big concern. People are asking of which farm are we sourcing produce from, where are the ingredients coming from. And Natasha pointed to a very interesting topic on the consumption of food habits. And we are now going back to traditional grains as well. So we are looking at some of the Indian traditional grains which had lost favor because the big foods from the US had come and told us that having breakfast cereal like a Kellogg's was good for us. And we completely forgot of all the traditional grains that were grown in a country like ours. So now we are probably going back to our roots and recognizing the traditional grains who are more favorable to our weather condition, easier to grow, higher in yield, better for the farmer, and better for our health as well. So as consumers, we are now changing our consumer palate towards those food items as well. So there are startups in all of these spaces, and also in the food sciences that Daisy was mentioning. She was talking of cell-based protein. In India, people are looking towards plant-based protein, and that's also because of the nutritional points. There's a lot of pollution in the meat that we eat currently. India, contrary to what we think, 70% of our population is meat eating, which is quite surprising. And so, but the chicken and the red meat and the fish that we eat are coming from very highly polluted sources. And so people are now becoming a little more aware of these things. Affordability is also going up. And so technology and in the food sciences space is also playing a big role. However, cost continues to be a big factor. Indians have always been value buyers. I don't think we could even think or dream of buying something which costs $300, let alone $100. So they're constantly looking at, the cost benefit of eating something. And so unless we are able to break through that hurdle, this will be a big challenge in the food sciences space. But lots of innovative startups in all of these spaces.
Thank you, Susma. I have one question in particular, since I met a team a few months back. They work in South Africa, and their startup was about using drones to research and to basically to check how the farms are working, how they're doing, how they're yielding, whether there are any issues, something that you had to do manually before. And since South Africa and India even more is such a massive country, have you seen any such developments in your country?
Absolutely. In fact, we're also seeing a lot of space tech opportunities in the agri data space. So as I had alluded to the fact that, we have a lot of smallhold marginalized farmers. So the land holdings tend to be very small. And we don't even have rich enough data to tell us which farm grows what crops and what the soil conditions are, what the climatic conditions are, what have been the crop patterns in the past, what is the irrigation capability of that land. All these factors, it was like a black box, and because of which the right inputs, the right implements, and the right data was not being given to farmers. But now there are a lot of technology like the drone that you talked about. There's also space tech. So there are microsatellites that are capturing very granular farm level data and feeding that for specific usage, whether it's in weather patterns, whether it's in crop patterns. So all this will add a lot of value in enhancing efficiencies and outputs in agriculture.
Thank you. You do seem to know what you're talking about. Thank you.
Sushma, we have to get connected offline. I have a lot of questions for you. Go ahead. Sorry, Alberto.
No. I mean, I was just going to ask Natasha for her experience in the past few years. What have you seen that have worked in some of the startups that you've been following?
You're talking from a very...
Okay. Have we lost her? Have we lost Natasha?
Perspective or what? Hello?
Sorry, you were breaking down. Yeah, I can hear you now. You were breaking for a second. Could you try again, maybe?
Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. Can you hear me now? Is it okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think, just like to pick up from the earlier conversation around pivots which we are seeing in this current pandemic. So the classic learning is from TikTok, the 3 C's, how they have mastered it, which is content, community, commerce. So startups have started focusing a lot of their initiatives towards building this strong community, especially if you're building in a food tech, if you're trying to build a brand around it, right? To build a strong community of people who be very local about their products, who post a lot, create a lot of content around, like, let's say Satviko, creating alternatives for the foods, which are mothers which are creating alternatives for this packed food which they're making. And then commerce is, of course, is a byproduct of content and community. This is very well mastered by TikTok. So there has been, because of this entire supply chain disruption which happened because of the pandemic, right? So a lot of focus is now, and distribution is key for something like food tech, right? Offline distribution is a key component for sales. So a lot of focus has been towards this channel of strengthening your content community and commerce, and focusing on a commerce strategy which is more omnipresent e-commerce retail. So not just your Amazon, Facebook, but even other such emerging platforms like social media platforms which are emerging in India, and how do you create a strong community around it and build your own strong platform around it. So I have seen a lot of brands in India focus specifically on not just blindfold marketing of their product in Facebook ads and others, but people who are actually using their products, they're giving user-generated content around reviews of the product. So that's become increasingly important, and that's the sort of shift which we are seeing towards startups which are trying to build a brand in the ecosystem around the same. And I think with the current pandemic, I think the first, because we had in India, we had around 2 or 3 rounds of lockdown. So a lot of focus was towards delivery of essentials, which came to a complete halt, right? And even a lot of e-commerce players at that time could not deliver. So a lot of startups, I would not say a permanent pivot, but as a side, started focusing a lot towards delivery of groceries, and which is billions of dollars of a market opportunity in India. They started pivoting towards that. And of course, though you have main players like the Big Basket, Grofers and others, but there were a lot of other startups which focused towards, but I think that's a more short short-term strategy, because as soon as things opened up, supply chain was no longer an issue, right? And another trend, which I just want to carry on from my point earlier, is as people are getting more and more aware of the nutritional content, they even want, like, and even of the products which they're eating, like let's say the meat which you're eating, the fish which you're eating, you really want to know the nutritional value. And I think aquaculture is something which is gaining a lot of momentum in India. And what's increasingly become important is the fodder. So what is the sort of alternative fodder which you can give for aquaculture, for your dairy products, so animal husbandry in terms of the inputs which you give to your farm produce, so that you get some high quality output with some great nutritional value. So that's going to become increasingly important. And I think there's been a huge revolution of the same overseas, and we have yet to see that in India in terms of alternative plant-based or protein-based inputs which can be given from an aquaculture perspective, from cattle and various other perspective, so that we get some high quality produce out of the same. So I think that's one opportunity as well. And yeah.
Thanks. I do agree, on everything you said, but specifically on the value of creating content, because also in this sector, I mean, food is very easy to watch. I mean, there are plenty of videos and a lot of media portraying food and recipes and stuff like that. I wanted to ask, I don't know, do you know any company that has done well the content part? Because I know of many private accounts, like YouTube accounts, individuals that have created massive accounts just talking about food, even chefs. But have you seen any company that has done the content well?
No, I think there are a lot of platforms emerging in India, social media platforms around the same, around which a lot of content can be created. But if you talk specifically for food, primarily Facebook and others which have strong communities of people around it, have more than 1 billion people already around it, has gained a lot of momentum from that perspective to generate a lot of user-generated content, right? But I think in India, social media is starting to get very localized. You have a lot of apps around it for entertainment and short video apps. But like I think if I talk about TikTok as well, they were a pure play platform which was focused on anything and everything, not just entertainment and silly videos, but even, let's say, education, food, everything. So everyone is aiming to become that sort of unbiased platform. But the first phase of reaching to that mass where you have a lot of people on board is try and with short media entertainment and short videos format. So right now there are a lot of apps. Mitro, ShareChat has their own Moj, and so many others. There's huge amount of social media platforms which are coming up. And the first hook for them is to be able to crack this entertainment side of it. And once they have enough sort of users on the platform, then it will start becoming more generic in terms of the content which you have. It will be start getting more customized according to what the users want to focus on, may it be education, may it be health, may it be lifestyle. So yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity from that perspective.
And in terms of food delivery, which is a sector that you follow closely, do you know a company called Blue Apron in the US?
Yes. It was just going down, and because of the pandemic, it just shot up. Because everyone's cooking at home, and they were like they were literally on their knees before the pandemic, and it's a remarkable story of how it just seemed to fit very well in the pandemic. You have these pre-cooked, pre-portioned meals, which is very simple to cook at home, because it's quite a pain if you're living by yourself, especially in the West, to be able to do that from scratch. Yeah, so I think there were some automatic opportunities for some of the ventures.
And have you seen any of such opportunities or companies doing the same in India?
There have been some pre-cooked, but not really a lot. I know that a lot of startups hooked onto the platform of Swiggy, even this milk delivery platform like Milk Basket and others, to be able to offer their customers the pre-packaged, pre-portioned sort of meals. But no one really took off in a big way. So I'm not really sure if currently these sort of platforms offer these pre-portioned sort of meals. But in India, everyone is either cooking on their own, or they're still going to Swiggy to order their food right away. So the thing about Indian culture is a lot of people live with their parents, so they live with their family. So cooking is not really such a big of an issue. And right now, because of the pandemic, a lot of people have gone back to live and be with their families because everyone's typically working from home. So I don't think that trend has fit very well with how it's happening in India right now.
Thank you. Sonny, do you have any questions for
yeah,
Natasha?
From Singapore perspective, I just see Grab everywhere, Grab delivery on bikes.
Yeah, deliveries. Either you're just doing complete delivery or you're cooking at home. Yeah.
Fascinating. I see kids, I see adults, everybody on bikes, scooters, bicycles, the manual ones, and delivering, and it's perfectly running smooth and fine. And that's the pivot I saw during the pandemic. I never saw them like that number out on the roads. Now I see when I'm outside in Singapore, like I see them every single place. So yes, that's just wanted to add onto that.
Yeah, I think every country. Yeah, I think every country has its own experience in this regard. Yeah, so let's go for Daisy. Do you have any examples of pivots that you've seen in your market, in your industry in the past few years? I know that you've been following early startups, early technology startups. So I don't know how much you can speak of here, but any developments that you've seen will help.
You mean the development, especially on FoodTech?
Yeah. So in the past 2-3 years, since you've been following this market, you've probably seen companies that were heading in one direction, hit a roadblock or an obstacle, and then changed direction and worked. So have you seen any such pivots recently?
Yeah, in Hong Kong, I think I would say more and more people, they get to realize that it's actually good to eat more vegetables. And still, I would say as traditional Chinese, many people still prefer meats rather than vegetables. But in Hong Kong recently, there are lots of campaigns to promoting the advantage of eating more veggies, and we have the campaign called Green Monday. So many restaurants actually participated in it. And that means encourage consumers to go on more salad and go on more veggie on Monday. So many restaurants, they have the menu that are specialized for Green Monday. They will have some discount or some special menu to encourage the consumers to eat more vegetables. And I think it's a really good trend, other than a health issue. So as we said that in many people nowadays, they have the over nutrition problem, obese problem, so high blood pressure, over consumption of meats that are not good to the health. So it's better for the health to eat more vegetables. And other issue is that as many of us know that agriculture actually is not really good to the environment as a whole. So actually agriculture farming use up more than 1/3 of the fresh water in this world, and it's contributed to 50% of greenhouse gases. And because of the pandemic, more and more people actually reflect on the damage that we do to the earth, to the environment. So more and more people have the concern about sustainability, sustainable consumption. So I believe that more people nowadays, they are shifting the consumption behavior. I would not say that it can be done in like 1 to 2 years time, but increasing awareness of consuming food in a more sustainable way, in a cleaner way, and also in a more healthy way.
Yeah, that's a nice development that I think all countries are fighting for. Thank you, Daisy. Back to you, Sonny, for the final questions.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Roberto. It was good to listen from you on your perspectives. Thank you. Sushma, while Roberto was busy engaging you ladies, I was just looking at your LinkedIn posts, and I just realized there's some fantastic posts from you. I'd just like to ask some questions about food waste and technology, not only fintech, but blockchain as well. How technology can help in improving, making the startups more efficient in the agri-tech space, food traceability, and food waste. I would like to hear your perspectives on those, please. Thank you.
Sure, sure. So India is at a crux of something big, right? All of you must be reading about the whole geo transaction where, multi-billion dollars have been mopped up. And the reason behind that is also because, the kind of digital penetration in a country like ours is really increasing. And digital penetration is creating, there are some very interesting outcomes from that. So digital transformation has become a norm. Which otherwise averse to anything digital are now forced to look at it as the way forward. So there's this whole joke doing the rounds that a CTO could not change that, the board couldn't change it, the CEO could not change it, but a pandemic has definitely made all companies look at digital in a positive light, right? So with all of that happening, and the digitization penetrations in a country like ours is far reaching and not restricted to just the big urban cities or urban centers. It's also spread into the rural areas as well. And so it's kind of an in many ways. And so being a very big role. Now, coming to your question on blockchain. So blockchain is definitely beyond cryptocurrency for us. And there's a lot of opportunity in blockchain itself in areas of agriculture. One of the big challenges we face is in land records. So if something can be done in that space, it would solve for a lot of problems, not just in India, across emerging markets. That's a big problem. So blockchain can solve for something like that. I also mentioned that data, especially for agri and food, is very limited. And with all of these things coming together, the digital infrastructure play in India is extremely robust. And now with pro-reforms in these spaces, a lot of interesting things can unfold. So, blockchain can play a significant role in all of these across sectors, not just in agri, not just in food. We are very excited about the whole FinTech space because, financial inclusion kind of converges a lot of these things together. So that's where, the opportunity lies.
Great. Thanks for those insights. So yeah, Natasha, talking about technology and startup or any innovation that you make, technology has a big part to play. So just share some insights about how technology has digitally accelerated food tech industry.
Yeah, I think when you talk about the food tech industry, how technology has digitally changed it, I can think of that this really went viral of a Chinese farmer who was selling his produce via a live stream platform. I think it was Pingdao or one of those, directly to consumers in the city, So, and this sort of trend, because I think China has really led this is quite the leader in social commerce and e-commerce in general, right? This sort of trend was previously very under-penetrated, especially in rural areas, to do that in China. And that sort of trend like skyrocketed during the pandemic. Interestingly, some of the farmers in China actually put a live stream of one of these social e-commerce websites. They have live stream of a lot of content creators which sell different products as a scarecrow in their farmland, so that to keep away the pest from their farmland. So these sort of interesting things, freaky things have happened during the pandemic, where you can actually see when the penetration in rural, which is very under-penetrated right now in India from a smartphone perspective. We might have 600, 700 million internet users, but if you look at smartphone users, it's around 400, 500 million users. So the next wave of evolution or revolution which is going to happen towards smartphone is going to be the rural areas and the tier 2, tier 3 sort of markets, and that's going to be the most difficult one to challenge, to break them through, because they're so convenient and they're so hooked onto their feature phone. It's really tough for them. A lot of them are not even literate enough to be able to navigate a smartphone. And how do you go beyond just call and messages, primarily calls, not even messages, right? So I think it'll be interesting to see how that really picks up in India. But farm to fork, like the previous speaker mentioned, it's because of the red tapeism of farmers not being able to sell to the consumers earlier and going through this entire chain of retailers, wholesalers, and distributors. It's all, it gives a huge opportunity for farmers to be able to sell directly to the retailers. But primarily, India really lags from an infrastructure perspective. So why they're hooked on to this entire chain is because these chain of wholesalers, retailers actually provide the financing to these farmers in terms of seed and other things, and actually have done that investment in logistics to be able to supply to the end consumer, right? Because you have to do a lot of investment in logistics, cold store warehouses, and various other things. So from an infrastructure perspective, investment has to go in these sort of things. And from a user behavior perspective, infrastructure in the sense that consumers in these sort of areas should get more familiar with the smartphone, using a smartphone, and building strong user habits around the same. So these will be interesting things to see, which, yeah, I think with Geo coming, could see a complete wipeout of 2G altogether. It'll just be 4G.
Absolutely. Natasha, when you mentioned about this China case, the person was, live streaming his produce, that brought back
this
some...
is true. This is
Yeah.
true, and he got viral because his grandmother was selling apricots in a very amusing manner, so social plus e-commerce.
Yeah, I have to add, if you guys been to Singapore ever, like that's a place called Little India, and inside that Little India, there's a place called Tekha Market, where you have Indian goods, and you have people who do not have access to any digital medium to sell their produce, right? So I saw on Facebook initially when COVID-19 happened, like first month of the pandemic, I saw live, that market, it's called wet market, where they don't have access to any digital medium. So you just go and pay cash and collect and come back home. So they were going all live on Facebook. And I was so amazed to see that, everybody is live on Facebook. And we have in Singapore, we have hawker centers who were not digitized before. The same, like you go pay cash or have a loyalty card where you just top up money and pay. They are all online. You have just scan the QR code, order, and have your food, which is amazing. It's only because of COVID. It's like a blessing in disguise, I would say. Obviously it has done a lot of damage to all of us, to the entire world. But at the same time, the flip side, we have to see that things which are not happening just skyrocketed, as you rightly said. I just had to add those from my perspective as I'm here in Singapore. Thank you, Natasha, for those insights. Last but not least, we have Daisy to share her insights. How COVID has led to, how the pandemic has led to the acceleration of, startups, and especially in the food tech space. Daisy.
We can see that a lot of food tech company actually they're growing very good because as of you guys mentioned that during the pandemic, actually people may switch to more vegetables, switch to more healthy way of consumption, and so as we see that many of food tech company, they're going very well. And for those who has already generated revenue, we can see that the market is going very fast. And we believe that more and more investors in Asia, they are putting more focused on the sustainable consumption, which is something good for the younger generation, wealthy younger generation. Actually, many of them actually they have the consciousness to do some impact investment that can change the world, make this world a better world. I think that this is a sector that many of the investors and many of the VC they will focus in the future, and it's actually good. We can provide capital to some industry. Not only we can earn money from it, and we can also bring something good to the world and also to the society. So I think it is a win-win situation, and I believe that for many of the companies, as long as they have the technology, they have the market product fit, they have a strong team to grow, I believe that their revenue will be going up, and but during the pandemic time, honestly, if for those startups they want to raise fund, it's a little bit more difficult, as the investors, now they're more cautious, conservative in putting money into early stage startups. So actually, we also see opportunity for our investors, because for some of the really potential companies, is now we have a bigger room for negotiation for lower valuation. This is something for sure. And so it's actually good timing for us to spot and find and vet some really good potential technology companies, and try to negotiate with them for more reasonable, maybe I would say cheaper valuation than last year, and for us to invest, and also for the investors to invest. So I think it's a really good opportunity, and we believe that the pandemic definitely changed people's behavior in many areas. So we can see more and more demand on some sectors, for example, like gaming sectors, e-commerce, food tech, fintech, these kind of hot sectors. So I believe that even after the pandemic, people's behavior will not like change back to before. So this is something that will change our focus of investment, and also many investors focus in these areas. So we will try our best to find more potential companies in these hot areas, high potential to grow. And we believe that in the future, we believe that we will put more money, and investor also put more money on the impact investment. That is something for sure.
Excellent. Thank you, Daisy. Thank you, Daisy, for those insights. I really enjoyed the panel. I'm just conscious of the time. Just want to know your closing remarks before we go offline or end this show. Sushma, this is your first time. I would like to start from you. What are your feedback? What's the takeaway, or the closing remarks you have for us for tonight?
No, so Sunny, as I started, thank you so much for having me on this panel. I have learned more than I probably shared with everybody. So this is fantastic for me. Learned quite a bit across different regions also. So that was very helpful. And, I look forward to these kind of conversations going forward.
Excellent. Thank you. I look forward to have you on another panel. Thank you, Sushma, for your insights as well. I learned something in food currency as well. Thank you for that. Natasha, what are your closing remarks for the evening?
Always a pleasure to be part of VCTV. It was great moderation by both the moderators, and very interesting insights from a global perspective. And really, the future of foods is ripe for disruption with technology, interesting times. And yeah, I think founders should really focus as much on the digital revolution, use as much of tech for building a lot of content creation, user-generated content, building a brand, and really it's a time to reflect back. So if you really want to pivot, or go back to the product and do some iterations around it based on the feedback which you're getting, it's a perfect time to do that. And it's a perfect time to even do a startup. So this is normally you have to squeeze in for time between work to really moonlight on your own venture. So this is a perfect opportunity. A lot of people are looking to do something new, and the timing seems great. But the funding would be a little challenging, but nevertheless, you can always start off and see how it goes.
Great points, Natasha. I totally agree with you. This is the right time to start something new.
Yeah.
Thank you. Daisy, what are your closing remarks for the session?
So thank you so much for inviting me on this time. And personally, I'm really interested in food tech. We believe that through technology, so we can have a lot of improvement from agriculture, from making of food, food delivery. We really can improve the life of citizens, also improve the well-being of this world. And as food is related to everyone, so we have to eat every day. So it is something that I think the entrepreneurs and also the capital market is really a good thing for us to work together to actually have more innovation, to push for innovation, for more change in this landscape. So to provide better food, healthy food for all of us, and also to make a world a really better world, less pollution, consume less resources. So it's a better, I think it's a good thing for all of us and also related to all of us.
Great. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Alberto, co-moderator. Nice to have you today, as I said. Thank you, ladies. That brought us back to the end of session tonight. So you can watch all our shows Monday to Friday at www.latoken.com/events. Please feel free to drop me a note on my WhatsApp or email me if you're interested to speak at any of the panels. We're open to have speakers back on the panels. Before we close up, I just want to say thank you for your time today. Stay healthy, stay safe, and stay connected.